talking, you guys are gonna keep your notes. So they don't become part of public record, you'll keep them.
Then you can
We'll
write.
have them Thursday, and then you can write whatever you want. Okay, so they'll just be your personal notes.
Then do you kind of want to think about questions? There's 11 questions.
All done.
Yeah, you guys have already done it?
Yes,
Oh.
Stacy assigned them.
All right.
Jeannie might come up with the bonus because we dipped her.
All right.
You
All
really
right.
think you can work with Mike?
I love it. One step ahead of me, like usual. It's like working with Julie Toole, always one step ahead of me.
So do we have to vote on the adoption of the agenda? She has it on here. Good. All right, does everyone feel ready? Sure.
Yep.
Good, okay. I will call the meeting to order. I'll start with roll call. Jane?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Jeannie?
Here.
All right, notice of meeting.
The meeting was properly noticed.
Okay, I need a motion and a vote for the adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. So we will start this evening with our first candidate, Christine, is it Wada or Wida? Wada? Okay. Way to go.
Way to go.
All right. Christine, come on up.
This is your spot right here, Christine. Welcome.
All right. Like I said, Christine, thank you for applying and for coming in tonight. We really appreciate your interest. We're going to start with a pretty basic question. Why do you wish to serve on the Pewaukee Public Schools Board of Education?
Okay, thank you for having me, first of all. And the reason I wanted to serve on the board was, well, I am an educator myself, and I've always been an advocate for children. My students, or my kids, excuse me, my own children go to the Pewaukee School District. So I thought it'd be could be kind of nice to get a kind of look a little behind the scenes and kind of things that work into that. And I think the most important part is to be an advocate for all children. And that's something I'm very passionate about.
Okay, I get to ask the second question. So please highlight for the board your background and experiences that you believe will contribute to your effectiveness as a Pewaukee Public Schools board member.
Okay. I think that my background is, like I've mentioned, is in education. So I've been an educator for the past 13 years now. I was in mostly actually in Milwaukee in the beginning. I also am a basketball coach through Pewaukee as well. My daughter plays for the Pewaukee basketball, so I am a coach there. And a parent, I feel, is something, with children in the district, I think would contribute to that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, thanks for being here. Thanks for volunteering and being part of this process. So, and willing to give up a lot of your personal freedom and time. What do you perceive to be the role of the Board of Education?
Okay, thank you. I think in my eyes, I believe that the role of the Board of Education is to set high expectations for teaching and learning, but making sure that it also supports strong student outcomes too. So again, something that's obtainable by all students.
Thank you.
Welcome.
How would you present your ideas and views to board members and administration to solicit their support?
Okay, well, I do always want to come prepared. Like if I do not know something, I will make sure to do research and find out more about that. But I think I would present in that way by maybe using some research or best practices or something like that. And I guess my central theme and something that I would always be keeping in mind is what is best for kids. So that is something that'll always be kind of in the forefront for me.
Christine, with the 7-member board, there are often times when board action is not unanimous on a certain vote. There could be times when your position would be a minority position, which did not prevail in a given vote. Given such circumstances, describe how you would, 1, interact with other board members after the vote, and 2, respond to news media questions about the vote, and finally, work with administration after the vote.
Okay. I've thought about this one a lot, I guess, but I know that sometimes I may be the minority and whatever I present or come up with is not going to be like the winner, I guess you could say. But that wouldn't affect how I would treat anyone else on the board. I understand that, again, I know as many of you feel this way too, that students are what's most important. So as long as student interest is kept in mind, I guess, that's really what's important to me. And I guess it really wouldn't affect the way I would react to any of you. I would keep an open mind. As far as the media goes, again, even though my position was not upheld, I would still support the board because it was something, again, it's majority rules. And so I would just, again, because I would probably understand the point as well, because it's something that we would definitely talk about in great detail. So I would support the decision made. And then the administration, I feel like that partnership is really key as well. So I would make sure just, again, just supporting the decision that the board has made and making sure that to support that and work with administration to kind of present the what of it. You're welcome.
What do you perceive to be critical issues facing the Pewaukee Public Schools in the next 3 to 5 years, which you believe the Board of Education must address?
Okay, there are 3 things that I thought of as far as things that should most likely be addressed. Well, as we know already, the Pewaukee School District is large and it continues to grow. So I thought one thing that would definitely have to be addressed would be student growth and the population. Student achievement, I kind of thought would be something that is probably always discussed as well, just something that you're keeping in the forefront of your minds. And then, ironically enough, you kind of cracked a joke about it earlier, but about busing, like things like that. I know that it's a separate company, but not just busing, I guess, but worker shortages throughout. So I would assume that there would be a lot of difficulty with that.
Okay. As a member of the Board of Education, it is possible that you would receive a complaint from a parent regarding the discipline of their child or an interaction that occurred with a school employee. Describe how you would respond to a complaint directed to your attention by a parent.
Well, if it's getting to that point where the parent needs to come and address an issue, I think what they really just need to be heard. So I think that I would be an empathetic, active listener. But I also want to make sure that, I wouldn't want them to talk poorly about someone that worked here, an employee as well. So keeping that in mind, so just, I guess, steering the conversation in more of a, I guess in a way that could help solve the issue, but without talking poorly about a staff member. And then again, just making sure to clarify the problem that they're having, to make sure I understand what they want or what the issue could be, and then promising to investigate further, because I thought something decision I would make on my own. I would definitely need support from others. So just making sure I have all the facts and promising to investigate further.
Thank you. Ready to move on? So the next question, number 8, is Board of Education members interact with a variety of people, including community members, parents, staff, and other board members. Describe your strategies for resolving conflict with a group or an individual.
Thank you for the question. As far as resolving any kind of conflict, I think it's the most important thing, first and foremost, is to clarify the issue, to make sure that I understand what the issue is. And then once I have that identified, making sure that everyone involved in that situation would be present. So if it's not just board members, but other members of the community or things like that, and having them all be there. Once I have those things in place, trying to identify a solution to the problem. And I think another thing that often gets overlooked is that you may have this, but you need a follow-up too. So you may come up with a solution and you may work and talk together, but in a couple weeks from now, following up and seeing how did that work. Is it effective?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Describe the time commitment you believe is necessary to be a member of the Pewaukee Board of Education.
I guess I don't really have like necessarily a time frame on it, but I would definitely put in a lot more work than just the 2 meetings per month. I'm always looking to learn new things and immerse myself in certain situations, so I would be willing to, well, I love to read, so reading any kind of books or materials to prepare myself. I would be willing to attend any workshop or seminar to help me make more informed decisions, and then researching and trying to help come up with ideas too as well. So I don't have a specific number or anything like that in mind, but I guess I would definitely be more than just the 2 meetings a month.
Okay.
What are the personal characteristics you possess that you believe would help you be an effective board member?
Okay. I think I am, well, I have a readiness to learn, like I had mentioned before, so I'm always looking to try new things. Like this is definitely out of my comfort zone here. I'm an active listener. I feel like I can be very good at that. I tend to be open-minded as well, so I will definitely listen to both sides. And then I also feel like I mentioned in the very first part, I am an advocate for children, and I think that's a big passion of mine.
How have you been involved in your children's education? I see you have 2 kids in Horizon. How have you played an active role within the educational setting?
Okay, so as far as being involved in my own children's education, I think I still read to my kids, even though they're in 3rd and 5th grade. That's something that I do with them a lot. And I model that as well. So we all sit down together and we read at night. So I am a reading specialist, so that's really big for me. I sit with them during their homework, so I'm always involved and checking things like that. I also will sometimes supplement activities on my own, just in math or reading, just to help them out. And then I also like to emphasize the importance of education with real-world applications. So if they might be frustrated with something that they're learning, definitely turning it back and saying like how this could be useful in life. And as far as actually, I hope that answers the question, but do you mean like I've actually come to school and done some things too.
Sure, I guess I'm curious, have you done any volunteer work here? You know, helped out in your child's classroom, anything like that?
Yes, and it's a little more difficult now with my schedule, but earlier when my son was in 4K, I know, for instance, they had volunteers that would come, and those volunteers, I helped with the literacy groups, so that was really fun for me. I've come in and done other things like that too. Like I think when my daughter was in kindergarten or first grade, I came to the library and I read to the kids, which I really enjoyed. I've gone on field trips with my kids too. So I volunteered to do things like that. And I've also volunteered to work the book fair every year that's been going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No pressure, Jeannie, but did you come up with another one?
I did not.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to ask us?
Let's see. I guess I've never done anything like this before. I've saw the email several times and I've always wanted to apply. I guess what happens next, I guess, is my question, because I know this is usually a position that you would have to run for. So I guess what does it look like in the future?
Sure. So the person appointed at this time will have to run in the spring elections in April. And then their term becomes a two-year term.
It depends on who gets, so there's two.
Oh, you're right.
You
Okay,
have to
sorry.
vote.
There's two regulars, so a couple of things. One, interviews this week, right? The board will decide after the last interview on Thursday who they're gonna appoint. Then the person will be appointed, and assume that seat. Paperwork has to be filed then, so whoever gets appointed would have to decide if, okay, I'm gonna run. To stay in the seat past April, you'd have to run. So paperwork would have to get filed in December, January. And then there's two other board seats that are also up. So this, in essence, there will be 3 seats that'll be elected. The top 2 vote getters will get a 3-year term, and then the third most votes would get the remainder of this term, which is 2 years. So the person appointed could end up in a 3-year term or a 2-year term, or not get elected at all.
Okay.
It's kind of like a try it.
Yeah, that's kind of,
Try it period.
that is a big part of like my motivation to do this, because like I said, I'm a little out of my comfort zone, but I've always been interested. So, thank you for answering.
And
my
that's
question.
how, Stacy came from an appointment and then ran, was elected, as an example.
All right.
Does anybody else have any other questions that they'd like to ask Christine? Are you good? Do you have any others?
Yes, that was.
Well,
thank you for
again, we
answering my
want to thank
question.
you for your time, filling out the application and coming in tonight. We really appreciate your interest. So thank you.
so much for your time as well.
All right,
Thank
have a
you.
great evening.
You too. Thanks.
Yep, you
Thank
too.
you.
Two.
I saw Dan.
Yep. Yep.
I can check with him to see if he wants to start early.
Start a little early, sure. No, she's a volunteer for the club.
Just for the club.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
Sounds like you got a rambunctious group down there tonight.
I know.
Yeah, they're having fun. go-getter, I like that.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Hey.
Hi, Larry
Oh,
Dukes.
that's
Oh,
what
that's
that
what that
is.
is.
Sure.
Hi, Dan, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Ren, nice to meet you.
Hi, Jeannie. Nice, good meeting.
Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dan, for the interest and the application and coming in tonight. We appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to get us started with a real general question. Why do you wish to serve on the Pewaukee Public Schools Board of Education?
The school district has served my family, me and my family, for almost 20 years. And I really just look at it as my opportunity to give back. With the product that the district produces, my children are a product of that, using that word again. But I'm very proud of what they've accomplished, and I don't think that outside of trying to be the best parent as possible, a lot has to do with the teachers, the administration, coaches, people like yourselves who have given of your time to my family, and now it's just, I feel like it's my turn and my time to do the same and give back. And I would look forward to doing it.
Thank you.
I get to ask the next question. So please highlight for the board your background and experiences that you believe will contribute to your effectiveness as a Pewaukee Public Schools board member.
Well, I don't know if, running a small business for 30 years, everything from, start to finish involves everything like human resources and training and education and hiring. And I've had a number of, in my field, we represent other investment and insurance firms, and they ask you to take on roles. Never have to interview for them, they usually just come to me and ask me. But so I've taken on sales management roles, managing director roles, again, recruiting and training, outside of just running my own practice and taking care of my clients as best as I possibly can. So when opportunities have come up, I've often taken them to bring others into the industry and teach them and help them to learn the ropes. And I would hope that much of that experience would be transferable and helpful in this role on the board. I've also served on a number of other boards, and with that, working as a team, handling issues, working on projects, committee roles. I've done a fair amount of that over the years, and so not every board's exactly the same, but I would like to think that that experience in other organizations that I've played a part in would be helpful to be, in this role.
Thank you.
I get the next one, and again, thank you for coming in, thank you for being willing to serve and to commit the time it takes to be on the board. My question is, what do you perceive to be the role of the Board of Education?
To me, the first thing that comes to mind is just, it's about the children, it's about the students. So being an advocate for the kids themselves. I know that there's policies and maybe visions and goals and things that the board sets, running hopefully being fiscally responsible and doing all those sorts of things. But I think in the end, really, if we can produce good role models that are going to be assets to the community and society, and that they can be sent off on their own and be self-sufficient and take everything that they've gotten from 4K all the way to their senior year and be able to be good, upstanding adults in society and contribute themselves someday. So, behind all that would be all the nitty-gritty stuff that everybody needs to do to make it run smoothly and that sort of thing.
How would you present your ideas and views to board members and administration to solicit their support?
I didn't really look into what I actually couldn't find, what would be the process in doing so. But to me, if I had an idea or something that I was looking to want to accomplish, I would kind of no different address it like I do in my own career, and that would be preparing a formal presentation. And yeah, I'm big on PowerPoints and binders or whatever I would need to do, but I would put a formal presentation together. I would try to do my homework. I'd try to be as detailed as possible. I would present it to those in the board who I would want to solicit their support for, and I guess ask questions and get feedback and see what do you feel about it? What do you think? Is this a good idea? What would you change? Maybe I go back to the drawing board and I work and come up with more detailed information to better answer questions that the board may have that I didn't address on my own, that I didn't even think of as I was working towards soliciting the support. And I guess, word solicit, I would just ask and hopefully get a positive result. Response, and if not, maybe ask why and see where I go from there.
Thank you.
With the 7-member board, there are often times when the board action is not unanimous on a certain vote. There could be times when your position would be a minority position, which did not prevail in a given vote. Given such circumstances, describe how you would, 1, interact with other board members after the vote, 2, respond to news media questions about the vote, and 3, work with administration after the vote.
Yeah, so I don't think that there's ever a time that a board or everyone on the board is going to agree to everything. So I would like to believe, and it's almost a question I'd like to ask you all as well, because who wants to be on a board that, you're backstabbing or there's dissension or there's conflict, and nobody wants that, and that doesn't make it's not fun, We're here, I think, we're here for the children, we're here for the district, we're here to make this a great place for anyone who comes in and leaves, and hopefully they leave feeling better than they were when they came, and just feel what I feel, that this is kind of a special and unique place, because it has been for me and my family. But I would think I would handle it no differently than the day before the vote, I guess, and just be professional with integrity, and understand that we all have different positions, and that's just the way it is. And with the media, is that one of the other? It's really, I think it's just, if it's a board, we're a board. And so you don't take an individual stand. It's not about me. It's what the board decided. And so if the board decided this is the way we're gonna go, this is the way we're gonna go. And being part of the board, you support your board members and you support the board. And that's what you do. In the administration, I guess the same way. Again, people might not always agree, but if it's okay to explain how we came to the conclusion and why, because some people don't know how you got from A to Z, and so just being detailed and explaining and helping them to understand that not everything can always be exactly perfect or what you want, because you can't please all the people all the time, but you try. Okay.
What do you perceive to be critical issues facing the Pewaukee Public Schools in the next 3 to 5 years, which you believe the Board of Education must address?
Well, I wish I knew what were some critical issues. The only thing that really comes to mind for me as a parent is safety. I think there's nothing better for a parent than to drop your child off and for them to come home at the end of the day, kind of regardless of how great of a day they had or how bad of a day they had, just having them come home safely. So the first thing that just comes to mind for me is safety. And I do appreciate notices and when things are happening as a parent to know kind of what's going on when you're 10 miles away or whatever the case is. So that's always just top of mind for me is safety. I know you guys have addressed the facility in a big way. There's, things that I've read in the past were about the population and trying to accommodate students and that sort of thing. I understand that there's some other facility areas that may need some addressing in shop or otherwise that could be addressed. I think the school having 3 students or four that have gone on to higher education, I believe the school does a very good job at preparing students to move on to higher education. I ask my kids quite often, and whether it's like calculus or otherwise, we did all that stuff in 12th grade or senior year, and they're doing it at a college level and whatever the case is. So in some areas, I really feel that they were well prepared. I don't know if it's a critical issue, but what I see is that the trades seem to be underserved, not necessarily by the school, but I just feel that there maybe could be more attention to electricians and plumbers and carpenters and construction, and you can really make a very decent living in the trades. And I think schools like to say that they have a greater population that is going on to higher education, but there's value to the trades too, and I think that educating the trades, and again, I don't know if it's necessarily critical, but I just think it's hard to get a good plumber these days.
True.
As a member of the Board of Education, it is possible that you would receive a complaint from a parent regarding the discipline of their child or an interaction that occurred with a school employee. Describe how you would respond to a complaint directed to your attention by a parent.
So, assuming that they came to me individually as a board member, I would want to address it right away. I think sometimes a complaint can often be a misunderstanding or a lack of communication, but either way, address it right away, ask questions, get details, find out all the parties that are involved, ask the parent what they hope that they want to come from this complaint. What would you hope the result would be? What do you want to see accomplished with this? Get all that information and then bring it to the board, superintendent, or whomever it is that would be the next in line. If I'm the first point of contact that the parent had, I would then take it to whomever I'm supposed to take it to at that next level and give them all the details and then find out what the next steps are in that situation. And hopefully follow up, because you want to make sure, you want to let them know that you care. It's an issue to them, and you want to listen and follow up. And again, it might not be the end result that they were hoping for, but then explaining to them why you came with this end result, and hopefully have it settled, and just do it in an expedient fashion, because I think often enough things can get blown up and get worse if you just let it go.
Okay, question number 8. Board of Education members interact with a variety of people, including community members, parents, staff, and other board members. Describe your strategies for resolving conflict with a group or an individual.
It's kind of very much like the prior question to some extent. I would want to get the details understand, get a full understanding as to what the issue or the conflict is. Let them be heard. I think it's important that people are heard, and not just heard, not just giving them if that's the right way to put it, but sometimes it might not be an issue that might not impact me directly or that is gonna change my life, but it's important to them. So show you care. People wanna know you care. And they know that by not just listening, but then having some answer and results, and again, following up with them, and just seeing how they are afterwards, so that they feel a sense of, maybe hopefully a sense of peace about it, or understand why the decision was what it was, that we came to this decision, or find a middle ground. You know, if we can't completely resolve it the way that you want it, we have things that we have to do, it's just the way it is on this end, but try to find a middle ground. And try to, again, it's not, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
Thank you.
If you would, please describe the time commitment you believe is necessary to be a member of the Pewaukee Board of Education.
I understand that it, I could ask you guys that question. Maybe as many as 20 to 30 hours a month. I know there's just board meetings, but it's not just board meetings. There's things that are going on outside of the meetings themselves, and preparing for meetings, preparing for whatever the topics the meetings are, committee meetings, probably impromptu issues that come up. Fortunately, I'm in a business and or a career where I have the freedom to kind of come and go, give or take if I have client meetings, but I can do things during the middle of the day. I can run around. I like being active. I don't mind that. So I'm blessed with that freedom to be able to do that. So I'm aware that it's not just a meeting once a month or whatever the case is. There's more involved, twice a month, more involved to it than that.
What are the personal characteristics you possess that you believe would help you be an effective board member?
So I have to talk myself up here.
All about yourself.
Well, I am motivated, I'm energetic, I'm hardworking, I'm dependable, I'm prompt, I'm reliable, I'm a problem solver. I like solving problems. I'm realistic. I feel I'm a creative. I like work. I like working as a team. I like leading as much as working as a team. I'm a people person. I enjoy I enjoy the busyness of life. Maybe, I'm not lazy. I'm not full of myself. So, if that, I could keep going and come up with more adjectives, I guess, but.
I ran out of space.
I think Jane said you hit your adjective maximums.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How have you been involved in your children's education, and how have you played an active role within the educational setting? Maybe volunteerism, committees within the district, things like that.
Well, it started with their first shadow box and making sure that they got a good grade on it. It was doing a lot of artwork in the beginning. But as a parent and coming from a family of educators, two sisters and my dad, I guess I've always been involved in my children's education to one extent or another, and hopefully their grades, most of my kids' grades, but hopefully their grades reflected that. And as well, I think it goes beyond just the educational part of it, but that they're a good role model among other students. I can't control 100% of what my kids do, like any of us maybe, but I want them to be good role models, and I don't ever want to, nobody wants to have anyone from administration or otherwise call and say that your kid was acting up or otherwise, because I know what that's like, and I had a dad who was a principal, so. But I've, from an educational standpoint, I've always asked them, and if I could help them with their homework or otherwise, I would do so. There's that, the show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And sometimes I'm not. And then when they get in the upper grades, I'm like, I got no idea. You gotta ask for help. But even with my college age young adults, I'm asking them about how things are going and how their classes are going and what they're learning and what they're getting out of it and all that. And I've been doing that all this time. And I have, with the younger grades, gone on field trips and that with them because I can. I haven't done it maybe as much as I would have liked to have. But I am kind of big on extracurriculars. I think in education, the classroom education and classroom setting is very important. I like the reading, writing, arithmetic, the basics, that they learn those foundational basics. I think that's really important. But I think for a really good, well-rounded student, just for me personally and my history, is to be involved in activities outside of that. So my kids themselves have been in choir and drama and baseball, football, basketball, soccer, POMs. And so most of my involvement is running around as a parent and being at every single event that I possibly can be at. And supporting them that way. And I do believe that that not just the educational aspect of it, but all those extracurricular activities really makes a really well-rounded student and a healthy student. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone have any other questions?
I think I'll steal your question and say, do you have any questions of the board?
Yeah, I should have thought of that. I mean, I know, to me, it's probably, out of the other boards that I served on, which I would consider, I have a board membership deal that's coming up that I would probably not choose. There's not a huge time commitment with it. It's a Fellowship of Christian Athletes. But I would probably drop one or two potentially. Just because I think this is more of a commitment than any other board that I've served on. And I'm willing to make that commitment. And I don't ever like to put my hat in the ring or say I'm gonna do something and do half-butt job of it. So I really want to be able to put my own time and effort into it and what talent I can offer as a part of the board as a whole. So that's not really an answer to a question, or it's not really a question, but just a comment.
Stacy, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Dan, I noticed in your resume here that you've been a school board member and a treasurer for a private academy.
Yep.
You did that for 8 years.
Yep.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your service on that board? And maybe if you can think of maybe some difficult decision that the board had to make when you were serving and how you guys came to a resolution.
Well, I started serving on that board before I had any children. And I was asked to serve, so I just jumped in. Being in personal financial business that I have, they assumed that I would be great as the treasurer, and I realized that I had it's like it's like two different languages, so I really had to learn and work with the accounting firm, because there's not as many layers in a small private school, at least in this one. It was West Suburban Christian Academy, which was just up on, they took over the old Northview School in Waukesha. And at the time, just as I was ending my term, enrollments we didn't have space. And so we did a whole capital campaign. We purchased that building. It used to be, it was a health building. I'm trying to think who owned it at the time, but it's on the top of the hill over across from not Perkins, but right on.
Denny's?
Denny's,
No, is
yes.
it Denny's?
And now it's a church. But we, as a board, we did a capital campaign, and it was soliciting funds from parents in the community to purchase that building and go in there with sledgehammers and take out all the individual medical units and all that to create a school. And it was because we ran out of room, and it worked really well, and then the economy took a major turn. And I wasn't on the board at that time, but things started going south rapidly. And as things started going south, we had to up our tuition and costs, and then less parents could afford it. So it was backwards. And we hung on for a long time at that school. And it was difficult in working with families and trying to, because there's people that you just know and love, and they're real close friends of yours. It's not just, it was a community that, it was always sad to see another family fall off and try to work with them. And we had families that were on scholarship, and it's trying to still support them financially because they can't afford to send their kids to a private school, yet we want to still keep them there, and yet we're having financial issues. And now I'm on the outside looking in, thinking, do I try to step back in when we have really some smart minds on the board currently? But I stayed involved kind of on the outside and with my kids there until it just came to a decision to close the school, which was hard. Again, I don't know if I answered your question exactly. But so we were gonna try Pewaukee for, and just to try it out. Because and they would have come here, because that school initially only went till 8th grade, so they would have come here after that. But it kind of forced us to make a decision, and honestly, not that I should be shocked necessarily, but I was very happily surprised or happy to have my children here and keep them here. Because to me, it wasn't all that much different. It was almost like a big private school in a way, how Pewaukee is, and the involvement of families and all that, because you don't really get that. I think this whole school district is unique, and it's unique because of how it's all set up from kindergarten or 4K all the way till senior. I mean, I think it's a really awesome campus, and it really promotes community, and it makes, I think, the whole educational process really more fun, and something that oddly, like, I never went back to my high school after I left. I only went there because my kids played sports there, at Nathan Hale. But when my kids come back, and they don't come back to necessarily see their siblings play. They come back to go to the football games and the soccer games because they want to, and that's kind of says something about the school. I think that's neat.
Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask us?
So I think, I don't know if I read, but once you interview all the candidates, what is your decision timeline then?
Thursday evening.
So right away, like at the end of
Yep.
this week?
So there's 4 candidates tonight, there's 3 on Thursday, and then after the last interview on Thursday, the board immediately deliberates and makes a selection.
Okay, Great.
And I
And then we get
believe,
sworn in at the next.
it's, double check our timeline, I thought it was at the
Yeah, I think it's,
meeting on
2 weeks
November
after.
28th is then, because we do have a meeting on the 14th, but we view that as a fast turnaround, so the November 28th meeting is when this person would assume that seat on the board.
Okay.
All right.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan, really appreciate
You
it.
made it not so scary.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations on the engagement.
Yeah, I heard about that this weekend. I got a wedding to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep a dry eye there, Dan.
So I'll have to wait till we see Jamie pop up on the Zoom here. I don't know if you guys talked about this or not, but for the Zoom interview, we're just gonna have Stacy ask the questions, so it kind of remains focused that way.
She's one step ahead of you, Mike. I mean,
She's
she's
yeah,
got it
I'll
covered.
say it's just like working with Julie Toole. Right? Julie's very like Radar O'Reilly. She's always got to, she's one step ahead of me. That's scheduled till 10 after. So it's not a bad time for a little stretch break if you
Yeah.
need one.
Run commercials during this, or is it just,
What?
or do we run commercials during
Right.
this, or is it just pause, right?
I think, did they sign the thing? We got rid of it, so this will be last
Yeah.
We
time.
don't do it in
Yeah,
the
spring is the
right?
last time, so
Yeah.
we switch back
So
and
we'll move
then,
back and then we just stay there.
and
right?
then stay,
Yeah.
yes. I'm very excited about
Yeah,
that.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, yeah. But the spring one is worse than the fall one because you lose that hour and.
It's, the effects are harder to get over. It can take you a couple weeks to get your circadian
Yeah.
rhythm back in
Yeah, yeah.
sync.
Yeah.
My problem is, after being in Florida, since I was already an hour ahead, now I'm 2 hours behind.
There you go.
I did the classic, forgot to reset my alarm clock this morning. I got up,
What,
got downstairs and
right, now
Cicadas.
I was gonna say, now I know
5:30.
the right pronunciation because you got me all messed up.
You know, so there's the bugs in the trees. We're starting up at 7:10, is that it, Mike?
yep, 7:10. She's scheduled and yeah, you have time for a stretch. What's that? Good. How's
It's
Saint,
neat.
how's Saint Martin?
There she is.
St. Martin is beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like raining, but I take rain here over rain in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
We'll just leave it there. We'll just leave it there. I feel like you can tell, I mean, I'm not actually this red. There's a red light above me, but I got some color, so I feel pretty good.
Oh,
There you go.
good, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for applying and showing interest and giving us this time tonight while you're in St. Martin. We really appreciate that.
Thank
Norm-
you guys for being flexible. I appreciate that, so.
No problem. Thank goodness for technology. So normally the entire board kind of takes turns asking questions, but because of the streaming, I'm just going to ask you all the questions. I think
Okay.
you can see most of them, correct? We might have one or two on the ends that you can't see, but
Okay.
that's how we're going to run your interview. So I'm going
Okay.
to start with kind of a basic question. Why do you wish to serve on the Pewaukee Public Schools Board of Education?
Well, I have 4 kids and 3 are currently still in the system. We just had 1 graduate. And I have spent a lot of time, obviously through the school district with various activities as they were growing. But I also have a child who went on an IEP journey and is still on an IEP with the school. I have, some other children that went through some issues and stuff and went through a lot of the back things like we actually had a board meeting with my daughter Brooklyn who went through her disciplinary actions, those kind of things. So to me, I feel like I've seen a lot of the outside stuff that happens within the school district. And at this point in my life and at this age with my children, I would really love to bring some of my experiences to a position like this to bring a voice of someone who's actually gone through some of the procedures and some of the things that parents are facing today. So really, I thought, and I saw that the position was open, and I'm like, why not give it a go? So.
All right. Could you please highlight for the board your background and experiences that you believe will contribute to your effectiveness as a Pewaukee Public Schools board member?
Sure. Number one, I have an extensive career in communications. So I love talking to people, listening to people, understanding how we can improve situations and programs and procedures to make them succeed. Every project I've ever had through any office I've ever held has been me trying to put together some kind of project or program to make my customers succeed. And I think, I think that really is what I bring to the table, is this passion to help others, and to not only help others, but to work with other people to make it happen. I recognize I don't know everything, and that's okay. And so I understand that running something like a school or even smaller scale like my marketing team, varying opinions are needed in order to come up with the right answers. So, and I love collaboration and discussion and those kind of things.
Thank you. What do you perceive to be the role of the Board of Education?
I really think it's to understand the needs of kids and how it changes, and then to take the programs, procedures, and what we offer to the students and make it appropriate for what they're going through at any point in time. And as the culture changes, as circumstances change, I think it's up to the board to make sure that students have access to the tools and the resources necessary to help them navigate all those changes, but also then succeed. As technologies improve, as we look at ways to help students with special needs, as things grow, I think it's the board's job to make sure that every child's needs are met and that nobody is really kind of grouped together and left in the back.
Thank you. How would you present your ideas and views to board members and administration to solicit their support?
So I've had extensive experience doing presentations. I present to large groups all the time. I think the best way to do it is mostly through visuals that you can explain to. So I'm not one to create like long PowerPoints and read off them and talk to them. I think the best way to present ideas is to state what you have to state and then ask for feedback. I only think that is how you can conduct a discussion on an idea that is both beneficial to me and to those people I'm presenting to. So using whatever media and technology, whether it's a PowerPoint, whether it's graphs, whether it's simply just bringing about some stories or thoughts that I heard. But present them in such a way that they're easily digestible, but also that they get to the point and they don't get off track. I think the best way to present ideas is a straight to the point way, and to not fill it in with a lot of clutter, but to really get to that point as quickly as possible.
With a 7-member board, there are often times when board action is not unanimous on a certain vote. There could be times when your position would be a minority position, which did not prevail in a given vote. Given such circumstances, describe how you would 1, interact with other board members after the vote, 2, respond to news media questions about the vote, and 3, work with administration after the vote.
Well, I think in today's, especially in today's world, we all have varying opinions, and it is, I believe, a very lost art to accept defeat. And I think as a school board, it's not the job of the board to fight in and amongst themselves to be the loudest and the most correct, but to come to a consensus. And if I have a point or an idea or a thought that is not majority, then either go back and revisit it based on comments or criticisms, or just let it go and realize there was a better idea. We're all adults, so we all have the capacity to move on and to interact professionally and as adults. I think if you're approached about decisions, I mean, in my field all the time, I get approached by, customers about pricing decisions and things like that. And, in the end, all I can say is it was a majority decision. And all I can do is either, if you're unhappy about what happened, help you understand it and see if you can better transition, or carry your concerns up higher and just, maybe revisit the issue. As far as discussing and interacting with members of the board after something is done, again, I mean, we're all adults, we're all professionals, we all have the capacity to, agree to disagree on things, but in the end, as long as we get to the decision that benefits the students and the school system, then it's the right decision.
What do you perceive to be critical issues facing the Pewaukee Public Schools in the next 3 to 5 years, which you believe the Board of Education must address?
I think going back to my first point, it has to do with looking at how children learn today, how they perceive information. It's a step forward to have the laptops and the discussions, but there's got to be more. And I think it was apparent during the lockdown. How do you better utilize these tools to keep children interactive? And I think it's only going to get more and more common as we go forward. Not only for your standard learners, but also now you have your IEP students, your special needs learners. How do you get them on track with the technologies coming on board to make sure that they are not left behind either? So I'm not only talking about like school, programs and softwares, but also, social media, as much as we don't like to think about it, is a ridiculous part of life now. I mean, even in my job, we pay social media influencers. And so learning how to work with them and how to grow with them is important. Our kids live that life. And I think understanding not only what they're doing on social media, but how that affects their everyday life, even at school, is very, important. I think there's a lot of isolation that happened during COVID. Our kids were kind of stuck in social media. And I think they learned some, isolation habits and some ways of just being very blunt and being very, getting bored very easily. And I think that as a school, it's important to keep kids excited to be there and to kind of look at how do you combat some of those negative feelings and stuff that is grown through a social media platform. So, I mean, just as a mom, getting my kids to understand that just because it's on social media, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. But I think from a broader scale, I see my friend or my kids' friends going to school and they'll have a bad day because of something they read on Instagram first thing in the morning. And now that's ruined their entire day at school. And it's like, it's those kind of things, it's the ancillary stuff outside of school that I think needs to be on the mind of a board member. Much like with us as adults, we have this work-life balance where it is apparent now that we're, professionals are like, well, hey, I have a family. You need to bring that into consideration when you make decisions on employee benefits and things like that. I think children face the same thing. They have a life and stuff outside of school that has a bigger effect than I think we give it credit for. So I think as we go forward and as kids become more involved in the various types of media, that we really understand, okay, cool, how can we help them navigate that? And then how can we harness that power to keep that excitement going?
As a member of the Board of Education, it is possible that you would receive a complaint from a parent regarding the discipline of their child or an interaction that occurred with a school employee. Describe how you would respond to a complaint directed to your attention by a parent.
I think it first and foremost, it comes down to listening. It doesn't hurt to listen. I think a lot of times you have to start there. I would listen, try to understand what the issue is. And then based on what that issue is, explain to them, first of all, we'll look into it. We'll look into something. People like to be heard and acknowledged. And then bring that concern in front of the board and say, hey, I heard this. This was an issue. What do we do? I mean, I'm not empowered to make those decisions, but I think what a lot of people want is someone just to hear them, acknowledge that they heard them, and then just do a follow-up saying, hey, we talked about it, we looked into it. This is what we, came up with. Is that, are you satisfied? Do you have more questions? Those kind of things.
Board of Education members interact with a variety of people, including community members, parents, staff, and other board members. Describe your strategies for resolving conflict with a group or an individual.
Again, and I don't want to just leave it out there, but it's all about listening and communication. It really is. My master's is in psychology, and I find it fascinating how people tick and how people work. And the basic thing that is there, regardless of the group of people, who they are, how they think, is just being heard. And if you listen and then you just go back to them and say, this is what I heard you say. This is what I can do right now, and this is what we'll hope to do going forward. At the end of the day, regardless of, your ethnic background, your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, we're all people, and we're all people that want our children to succeed. So it comes down to acknowledging somebody's, either issues or thoughts and just letting them know, I hear you, and let's see what we can do going forward.
Describe the time commitment you believe is necessary to be a member of the Pewaukee Public Schools Board of Education.
You know what, I think, honestly, in my mind, it's an ongoing thing, right? As a member of the community, as a mother, as somebody who interacts with the school, your ears and eyes are always open. So to your point, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I know you're on the board, I have this issue, I don't want to say you're ever really off the clock. You're making the commitment to keep your eyes and ears open to the community. So I would assume that outside of meetings and whatnot, it is, it's another, even just daily thing that you revisit, even in your thoughts or your interactions from the day. Truly, truly. I mean, especially when it comes to education. And I know with my kids every day, it's a daily thing, right? Every day I'm looking at them, talking to them about it. It's a nonstop job. And I wouldn't see it any different being a board member. It's just possibly elevated because now you're hearing about everybody else's kids as well.
What are the personal characteristics you possess that you believe would help you to be an effective board member?
I'm very positive. I love talking to people. I'm willing to, joke around and whatnot, but then get serious when necessary. I think my ability to talk openly and passionately about what I believe in, but also I have, I understand, again, I don't know everything. And if I am wrong, I will accept so. So it's my positive attitude, but also my ability to agree to disagree and not be, upset about, that. So I think it's a lost art. I think it's a lost art in today's society to just look at each other and say, we are adults. We have varying opinions. That's okay. We can still move forward amicably and accomplish a task. And it's something that I try not to lose as I get older.
How have you been involved in your child's education? Have you played an active role in the educational setting? So could be volunteering,
that-
could be, just
Oh,
helping
yeah.
out.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, like I said, my son Elijah is in 7th grade. Him and his interpreter just started the ASL club at Asa Clark. And so Eli came into the district on an IEP that sent him to Lowell. So he did his elementary school through Lowell. So it was a lot of working with Lynn Oregon, and the special needs team, talking about every year what's best for him, advocating for him, and then really trying to set up the bridge work to get him back streamlined into the school system itself. So it's a lot of hands-on, right? It's a second tier when you have a kid who has a little extra need. So I worked very heavily closely with a lot of teachers, a lot of the counselors. So it was next to impossible to not touch every department within the school system as he was coming through it. And then of course, my daughter Brooklyn kids make mistakes. Going through that whole process with her and, really understanding the care that the school really feels for the kids and, going through the board process with you guys and talking about, okay, what do we do going forward? So I feel like I have had extra experiences that most parents don't have when their kids go through the school system. My son Noah plays sports, so, there's that whole thing. And then, doing the concession stands and the fundraisers and all of that stuff. Eli's into a lot of the clubs. Grant did band, when he was there. So it's going to all the concerts and stuff. So I feel like I've had an extremely, immersive parental experience when it comes to my kids' educations, just because like one, I'm anally retentive and I just want to make sure my kids do well. So I check up on them all the time. But two, due to circumstances, I've had to work with various departments I don't think a lot of parents get to, so.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to just ask the board if there's anything else that they would like to ask. All right, Jamie, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I do. I understand that there are 11 folks that are doing this. I just want to understand the process going forward and how that works.
Okay, so we have, actually, the number's been reduced down to 7.
Okay.
So we have 4 interviews tonight, we'll have 3 on Thursday, and then we'll deliberate on Thursday and make our decision. The swearing in will be in our last meeting in November, right?
November 28th.
November 28th. And then because it's an appointment, the person that gets appointed will have to run in April. And there's
Okay.
2 other seats that are open in April. So the way that it works is the top 2 vote getters will get a 3-year term, and the third vote getter will have a 2-year term. Will essentially finish the vacant seat that the person would be filling right now. So that's
Okay.
how that would work.
Okay. Very cool. So very, very efficient and fast. Awesome. So, okay, no, that was really, and I'm really excited to at least go through this with you guys. I think I'm at a point in my life where I want, you look at the world and I want to do something to make it better, even if it's just in a microcosm that is my children's school. And I've had this need inside me to do it. So when I saw this opening, I appreciate your time and your flexibility and giving me a chance, to talk to you from an island, to go through all this. So.
No, we're happy to do it. We're really glad that you took the time to apply and sit down with us during your trip.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's what I have.
All right. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jamie. Very
Thank
much
you.
Thank
appreciate
you, guys.
Appreciate your
Bye-bye.
time. Safe travels on the way home.
Thank you. Bye.
Pretty good internet connection for an island.
I know, that was
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, and I checked her. She says, yeah, the resort says they have really good Wi-Fi.
I feel like that's better than I'd have at my house right now.
Yeah,
We're having
I
trouble.
think it is better than that. Fun fact, that was my favorite vacation I ever took.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I've stopped there on cruises, but I've never had a whole trip.
Yeah, it was great. The whole island's only like 200 square miles, and there's 20 different beaches. So you really
Beautiful.
you need a car there because you can drive the whole. That's where actually Sarah and I met Bono from YouTube.
He has a house there.
He's on St. Bart's, I
Is he
think.
on St. Bart's?
But he
Okay, I knew
came
it was
over.
one of those.
We were ziplining, and he was just there, and it was just Sarah and I. He just sat down with us, and we were chatting.
Do the zip line on the French side?
It was the French side. It was kind of on the up in the hills. That's probably what the west side or probably. Yeah, yeah.
It's fun.
We stayed on the Dutch side, but that was definitely, but we were right, I know that was definitely on the French side.
I ziplined with Mark and our travel
Yeah.
companion, Tom, and we were getting set up, and the two of them were just like frozen.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine, I'll go.
Cowabunga.
What are you doing?
Well, we went to,
Uh-oh, right down.
That's an L.
Was it still
As the
muted?
kids would say.
Oh, everybody heard that. Sorry, everybody. Just in time to unmute. Thank you for coming, Ashley. We really appreciate you taking the time to apply and come in tonight to meet with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we have a set of interview questions. We're going to take turns asking them. I'm going to start with a kind of a general one. Why do you wish to serve on the Pewaukee Public Schools Board of Education?
So just over 9 years ago, my husband and I had 2 small children at the time, and we were looking to move to a community where we could see ourselves long-term. One of the biggest factors in choosing Pewaukee was because of the exceptional school district here. I don't think that anyone thinks of this position as a glamorous one, but I see it as being a very important one. I see this opportunity as a privilege to be able to help shape our district's future, and I'm excited to step up to help collaborate and present a united front for our community to be one of the best districts in the state.
I get to ask you the next question.
All right.
Please highlight for the board your background and experiences that you believe will contribute to your effectiveness as a Pewaukee Public Schools board member.
So I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I currently work as a licensed professional counselor within an outpatient practice. I specialize in all anxiety disorders, which typically also includes depression, because those 2 disorders tend to go hand in hand. Within my practice, I've seen firsthand the drastic increase in mental health needs throughout the community, especially within school-aged children. I've been involved in IEP meetings, offering recommendations for individualized accommodations for students. I've had communication with teachers, guidance counselors, school psychologists, and parents, providing education on strategies to best help the child and the family. I believe that this will give me a strong grasp on some of the biggest issues that the school may face with regards to mental health issues. I have also served as treasurer for the Pewaukee Junior Women's Guild for 4 years, and I also currently mentor students at the high school here through the Insight program, which I feel has given me a unique perspective into the needs of the community and the school itself.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for coming. Thank you for putting yourself through this and, stepping up to put in the time that it takes to be a board member. What do you perceive to be the role of the Board of Education?
So I see the board as being a team that works together towards setting and achieving goals for the district, which are then implemented by the superintendent. The board is an elected body that is meant to not only be the voice of the students and parents, but I also see it as being a voice of the community. Ultimately, the board is helping to implement policy that will help shape our students and district now, as well as providing a good foundation for their future success.
How would you present your ideas and views to board members and administration to solicit their support?
So I believe having open, honest dialogue is the best way to discuss and present ideas for support. I understand that not everyone will agree on a topic, and that's why sometimes I feel like it's best to agree to disagree and to move forward with finding the most effective solution via compromise and problem solving. I think listening, having an open mind, presenting facts, remaining calm, and being respectful towards others goes a long way when having an open dialogue about issues.
Ashley, thanks for coming tonight, for taking the time. With a 7-member board, there are often times when the board action is not unanimous on a certain vote. There could be times when your position would be a minority position, which did not prevail in a given vote. Given such circumstances, describe how you would, 1, interact with other board members after the vote. 2, respond to news media questions about that vote. And 3, continue to work with administration after the vote.
So I really appreciated this question because it made me think, are there actual policies for board members to have media relations? And so I reached out to the district to get this answer. And I learned that kind of the protocol is to defer to the current board president for any board matters, and then to defer to the superintendent for any district matters. My interaction with board members and administration would not change regardless of whether a vote goes in my direction or not. I've learned through many years of being in the career that I am to not take things personally. I would also want to maintain an objective view to ensure that we're looking for the best solution that is best for the district and not just what is in my interest. I think that's the point of having a 7-member board, so that many of the views of the community are represented within.
Good evening. What do you perceive to be a critical issues facing the Pewaukee Public Schools in the next 3 to 5 years, which you believe the Board of Education must address?
So I kind of thought of 3 that came to mind for me. First and foremost, I feel that mental health is probably at the top of my list. I think the overall happiness and well-being of our kids is a huge concern for most parents. I think that there have been a lot of challenges over the last few years, which have fueled a higher need for mental health treatment, not only for students and children, but for adults as well. With my experience as a mental health provider in the community, I've seen this drastic increase, and I don't foresee this slowing down anytime within the near future. I think that it's just going to continue to be an ongoing issue that I think if the board and the school district isn't already dealing with, that they will have to. The second issue that I thought of was safety and security. I know that it's a concerning thing as a parent to hear a lot about things in the news with, school shootings and bomb threats and kids bringing weapons to school. According to a survey that was published in Business Wire, there's nearly a 50% increase in violent threats from students and more than a 70% increase in just generally disruptive behavior. And more than half of the parents surveyed said that they are explicitly concerned about gun violence in schools. So I think that that's another concern. And then my final concern was just maintaining the high standards of the school district. I think with seeing a lot of the staffing shortages that there are, I think keeping and attracting good quality teachers and staff despite those shortages, I think is going to be an important issue.
All right. As a member of the Board of Education, it is possible that you would receive a complaint from a parent regarding the discipline of their child or an interaction that occurred with a school employee. Describe how you would respond to a complaint directed to your attention by a parent.
So first and foremost, I would respond with care and empathy. And then I would direct the parent to the proper chain of command. So really wherever the complaint arose from, depending on that issue, I would encourage the parent to contact the teacher, the principal, wherever that complaint arose from, and then get the parent or the administration to kind of start that process to resolve that complaint.
Good. Question number 8. Board of Education members interact with a variety of people, including community members, parents, staff, and other board members. Describe your strategies for resolving conflict with a group or an individual.
So fortunately, I do have a lot of experience working with a variety of people that sometimes tends to need to resolve conflict. A lot of the times I feel like conflict can stem from just simple miscommunication. So I think listening, validating others' feelings and emotions, showing them an understanding of their point of view, can all be helpful skills to resolve conflict. I would use problem solving and compromise to help them come to a resolution. And if it's not something that I am able to resolve, then I would work on finding out who I could go to get that answer, to help resolve that issue or point that person in the right direction.
Describe the time commitment you believe is necessary to be a member of the Pewaukee Board of Education.
So I think that this is a lot more of a time commitment than people think it is. I think it includes things like coming to board meetings, committee meetings, attending school events outside of board meetings and things like that. I feel like there's probably going to be a huge learning curve when it comes to being a board member, and learning all the ins and outs of being on the board, which is something that I'm willing to take on. I think that the schedule that I have, which I work for a practice, but I work for myself and set my own hours, allows me to have flexibility within my schedule.
What are the personal characteristics you possess that you believe would help you to be an effective board member?
So I would say being a very honest person, respectful to others. I'm a team player. I'm a good listener. I'm hardworking, caring, compassionate, and quick to learn, and I would say an effective communicator.
Ashley, how have you been involved in your children's education? And how have you played an active role here in the educational setting? That can involve volunteer opportunities and so forth.
So, attending teacher conferences, and I guess I have 3 children in the district. I don't know, I mean, I know that's on the application, but to let you guys know. I have a 5th grader, a 4th grader, and a 2nd grader. So going to those conferences, having open communication with the teachers. I volunteered in the classroom. I help my kids do their homework. I help them study words for spelling tests. I talk to them about school. What do you like about school? What do you dislike about school? Who do you sit with at lunch? Who are you talking to at school? Who are your friends? So I think all of those things. Another way of being involved, I feel like, is putting myself forward to be on the Board of Education. I feel like that's going to be one of the biggest things to help my kids in their education, not only setting them up for success, but setting all of the kids in the district up for future success. Outside of being involved with my kids, I've been involved with the Insight program as a mentor for the last 4 years. I guess this is going into my 4th year. And I can't say enough things about that program and how impressed I am with that. It's a great option for kids to get an idea of what they're interested in doing as a future career, to kind of see if it's something that they want to pursue or not, which, learning from other clients that I have, not a lot of other school districts have a program like this. So it's a unique program that I enjoy a lot.
Any other questions? Do you have any questions for us, Ashley?
What is something that that surprised you while serving on the board that you weren't expecting, that you could let me know as a prospective?
The amount of
applicant?
time, the amount of material there is to get prepared for a board meeting. I was surprised by that.
Lots of links.
Yeah.
And there's a definite learning curve. I mean, it took me a lot longer 2 years ago than it takes me now, but yeah, there's a lot of information.
Okay.
Which, the nice thing is it helps run a more efficient meeting because we have a lot of all the information before the meeting, so.
Yeah.
I think I always get surprised by just how complicated the funding of schools are in terms of the process and the rules and the laws. It is very, very complicated.
What was your question again in terms of?
So was there anything
Surprises.
that was surprising to you
You know, way back
that you weren't
when,
expecting?
Way back when.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably one of those things where we don't deal with it that often, but it's kind of like the lows and the highs of this particular role and position. We don't have expulsions very often, and we don't want to have them very often.
Yeah.
But really how personally that affects you, and in my case, it's like our mission, which is opening the door to each child's future in terms of how impactful and how meaningful that is, because we have students that are very, very successful and go on and have
Yeah.
very, very successful post-high school careers, whether it's working in the industry or going off to college and going to become doctors and lawyers and dentists and everything else that's out there, and seeing how supportive the Pewaukee educational community is. But the surprise part about it is like when we somehow, even after all of our work and all of our effort, it's just like we can't seem to reach that one or
Yeah.
two students, and it's like, it's kind of heartbreaking to see that happen, because you don't want to have that happen to any parent or any child. So that was the hardest thing, and again, it doesn't happen that often, nor do I want to have it ever happen that
Yeah.
often, but it was how emotionally, how that emotionally affects me, so.
It's definitely tough. I mean, I've seen it in aspect of mental health, just working in a higher level of care and seeing some kids that just don't want to help themselves. It's tough.
You know, Ashley, going back to your insight mentoring, can you speak to, how did you get involved in that? And when you look at the last 4 years, can you speak to how being a mentor in the insight program has been like a personal reward
Yeah.
to you?
So, I think her name is Adriana sent out an email, I think, to all of the district about 4 years ago, asking for people to mentor. And to me, it was kind of like, well, here's a way that I can do something to give back to the community and volunteer my time. And so I emailed her, and she matched me with a student, and I keep getting matched with students. And I mean, it's a nice process, you know, where I think the first year was COVID, and so it was all virtual, so I never actually got to meet that student. And then this last year, we get to meet in person a lot, which was pretty enjoyable. And then we're just kind of getting started into this school year. And I think actually the first year I was matched with a student, and then that student ended up moving. So yeah, but it's very rewarding, and it's just nice to see, you know, promoting an interest in something that I love doing, to kids within the district, to see if it's something that they actually would be interested in doing. So.
Thank you for doing that. It's a major goal of ours, that ultimately we want every kid to
Yeah, I like it.
have a mentoring experience before graduation, so.
It's a great, I mean, it's this things that I talk about with high school kids that I see of like, do you know what you want to do for a career? And does your school offer anything like this? And sometimes they do, and a lot of times it's like, we don't have anything like that. And I'm like, man, it's kind of a missed opportunity for kids. Something I wish I had when I was in high school.
All right, anything else?
No?
All right. Again, we thank you very much for your time and your interest. And we will be making our decision on Thursday after our last round of interviews.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
It'll be
Thank you,
live
Ashley.
streamed, but we'll also make sure we reach out to everybody and let them know what the decision was.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Have a nice evening.
Good night.
You too.
Thanks, Ashley.
Does that conclude our interviews for the evening?
Yeah, you
It
just need that
does.
motion to adjourn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.